Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King, and today I'm going to be giving you part 3 of What If Naruto Was the God of Shadows. Remember to get this one to 100 like as usual, share this to all of your friends in your social media platform, and also guys, remember to go ahead and check out the brand new episode of What If Naruto at its strongest was sent to another timeline, and enjoy that guys over on Anime King 2. And also, stay tuned for a brand new episode coming over and making 3. And remember, for new and this is the first time hearing my voice, yes, I indeed have 3 channels, and making 2 and making 3, which I post what if on every single day for you guys to enjoy. So go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become a part of the making family. And thank you for all of your help and support. Remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new. I'll be replying talking about to all of you. So yeah, without further ado, we're ready to begin this new episode. Start the intro. So, the last time we left off, Snatty asked for Naruto's help to back up Jiraiya on his mission towards the Land of Rain. As Naruto accepted, he made his way as he saw Jiraiya facing off against the 6 paths of pain, unaware to him. As Naruto interfered in the fight, Jiraiya did not even notice him as Naruto moved through the shadows and the darkness. As Nagato was able to pick up on Naruto with his Rinnegan as he ripped him out of his shadow, but Naruto was able to counter him as Nagato sent missiles after him, but Naruto went through the man's shadow like it was nothing, and the missiles came in as Naruto came back out and made the missiles crash down on him. It was chaos as Jiraiya was confused by everything that was going on. Explosions, but they were not aimed towards him. After a while, seeing that he got a good opportunity to flee and return back to Konoha with the information he got, Jiraiya decided to do that, flee. As Naruto was hit violently with explosive notes, he crash landed on the ground as Konan landed, but she didn't want to kill him actually. She needed his help. Some time passed as Naruto returned back to Konoha as he looked a bit beaten up, but he was fine, as he picked up the things his mother told him to pick up before he had left this morning. As he ran into Suzu, the Nine-Tails holder, as Naruto greeted her as she remembered him from all those years ago, as she couldn't believe that it was him, as he would have to catch up with her some other time though, and with that they separated. Some time passed afterwards as Naruto greeted everyone that he's missed for the past 10 years, all of them, uncle. Everyone decided to take their wrath out on him for him just not saying a word, even though he tried to explain. Well, he was sore as he came back, as Yoshino was laughing as she heard him groan. Serves him right. Shikamaru then came in as he sat down to play shogi with Naruto, as Naruto was grateful as Shikamaru had finally forgiven him. With that out of the way, the next day Naruto made his way to do the mission that Konan had hired him for. As Naruto moved in the hidden rain, as he dashed through the shadows and arrived in Nagato's tower, as he slit the man's throat. The man bled out and died right there. But suddenly, a masked man appeared in the room, as Naruto recognized his chakra from all those years ago, when Minato and Kushina had died. This man was responsible for their death. They talked until the man decided to flee by using a space-time ninjutsu and getting away. Konan came in as she looked towards the dead body of her friend, as Nagato had gone too far, as he had to be stopped. As Konan was now the one in charge. Their deal was that she made the alliance between Konoha and the Hidden Rain, and she would find a way to do that after they finished with the construction. Seeing that the village was in chaos after the battle with Nagato and Jiraiya, where Naruto was as well, but he barely showed himself. Some time passed as Naruto was waiting for his date, which was supposed to be Snavy. After all, she had agreed to this, but as time passed she did not come as he realized he was being stood up, as he decided to leave. But the person that was there to see him was none other than Shizune, who always had a crush on him, as Snavy had sent her, but her nerves got the better of her as she just could not enter, as she was afraid. That was until the man at the door spoke to her as she went after him. Her voice was not on the normal level as she shouted by accident, as Naruto finds amusing though, as she would be happy if he accompanied her towards the monument, as she would not mind it one bit. She calmed herself. She would find a way to tell him, but she was just too nervous right now, but she would find a way. So yeah guys, that was basically as we left off. You guys can switch across the place and check it for yourself. Remember to go ahead and check out the brand new episode of What If Naruto at His Strongest was sent to another timeline over an anime king to and enjoy that guys. And yeah, without further ado, what is to begin this new episode? Let's get straight into it guys. Naruto placed the hay down as he removed the rope that kept it all together. As he spread it around the area, he wiped his forehead with the back of his hand as there were thick gloves on it. As Naruto saw the deers emerging, as they moved toward the dried grass food that Naruto had scattered, the air was getting hotter and the grass was struggling to stay green, so hay was the next best option until the rain returned. As Naruto went back 4 more times, carrying only a single bale because he did not feel like overexerting himself or scattering the grass too much as his eyes counted the deer around the ranch. 30 deers. There were several more ranch around the clan, close to the open field behind them, but for now they were supposed to be kept inside the ranch. As Naruto dusted his hand as he watched proudly, as he was in a pair of black trousers that were tucked in thick black boots, and also a black long sleeve shirt with the Nara crest on the back. A frown crossed his face as he looked toward what he saw. About 14 of his female clan mates were leaning on the fence of the ranch, batting their eyes at the males, who were busy flexing their muscles as they left bay of hay over their head, showing off their strength. The women giggle and whisper amongst themselves as they watch a man strut around their chest out high. As Naruto rolled his eyes, it seemed like he was mating season within the clan. As Naruto walked over and he sat down, as he turned his attention back towards the deer, as he saw the leader marching around as the other ones lowered their head, the males, to show respect for the leader, as the females all bumped up against the leader of the group for him to mate with them. As Naruto closed his eyes, he refrained from cringing. Not that he wasn't well versed in the biology of deers and mating season. His father had forced the knowledge into his head, but the scene was rather familiar. As he leaned upon the fence, the men that all had their chests puffed out, they start to focus directly on their work, as they stop showing off their strength so much to the females, as they lower their heads, shoveling poops into large buckets, which would be in turn used as manure for a later time. A few plopped down beside him and a few stomped around him. As Naruto closed his eyes, naturally he was a leader in their gathering, him being the clan head, elder son. Of course there were other assassins in the group, but Naruto had the strongest control over their bloodline. Hey Naruto, the guy beside him spoke. As Naruto turned towards him, how was your day to be Lady Fifth? The man asked with a twitch of his lips, but that laughter was overpowered by a yawn, as he looked rather sleepy. As Naruto chuckled a bit as he shrugged, seeing that the others were also paying attention as well. Turns out she isn't into younger man. He heard a loud, "Aha! I told you so. Pay up, you idiot." As a full-blown laughter erupted. The group fell into a low laugh as well. I heard that Lady Fifth assistant asked you out, the same guy said. Where did you hear that from? Said Naruto, as he was sure the events of the night was a great secret, and even so he didn't agree to go to this shy medic. He rather proposed a chat over coffee on a later date. As the man leaned back, well, my girlfriend, as many of the other men started to laugh, as the man flipped them all off as he repeated, my girlfriend, said during her morning rounds in the hospital, she saw Shizune skipping around in the chakra poisoning ward, saying about some sort of rabbit eating a hot dog. I don't know. So, because Shizune is singing questionable songs, your girlfriend, said Naruto, as he did ear quotes when he said girlfriend, as the other man started to laugh. Think that I'm the cause? No, she also wouldn't stop talking about it. You're one lucky bastard. As Naruto rolled his eyes, he was about to retort, until there was a loud call behind him. Yo, old man. The group, even all the women, turned, as Naruto faced palm when he saw Suzu speeding towards him in a black midriff shirt and red tights black sneakers, was running towards him waving a sheathed red and black sword in her hand, as her long blonde hair was tied up in two twin ponytails. The 14-year-old girl stumbled as she managed to catch herself before she accidentally fell face first on the ground. She regained her composure as she skidded, as she stopped right in front of Naruto, who raised the eyebrow. "Suzu, how can I help you?" he said, as all the people were focused on them, as Suzu got a bit embarrassed by all the attention. But she bowed abruptly. "I would like to have a Kinjutsu spar with you, old man," she said as quickly as possible. "You also said I could meet with you if I ever needed something. Isn't Yujiro your sensei? I'm sure she's well conversed in Kinjutsu spar better than I am," said Naruto. "Kakashi is my sensei, Yujiro is my senpai, you see. I want to be Anbu captain someday. So, what do you say?" "I'm not really the sword using—" "Oh please," she said. "I read that you're so good at a blade, that the longest you ever had a blade for was a month before it breaks." As Naruto scratched the back of his head as a large sweat drop came on the side of his head, as his clanmates started to mumble. A few of them looked at him with more respect. A few of the females behind him nudged him on the back, as Naruto refused to compare himself to the deers. But the more he thought about it, was a similar situation. But that was his parents' kink, and he didn't want anything to do with that. The thought of that just sent shivers down his spine. "That's because I had the bad luck of buying inferior blades, and I'm sure that breaking blades on a regular basis is a bad thing, not a good one," said Naruto. Well, it was a lie. Any self-respecting shinobi bought their weapons from Higurashi, and the weapons the man sell was the absolute best quality, so much so that he always got constant good reviews, and he got more customers. "Please, old man, senpai said I should find someone to spar with, so I can expand my repertoire. She even said I should spar with you first," as Suzu fell on her knees as tears started to pool out of her eyes like waterfall. As Naruto sighed, as he hopped off the fence, as he stepped to the side. "Alright, give me all you got," he said, as Suzu shot to her feet, as she gave him a bow. "Thank you," she said, as she then unsheathed her blade, as she dropped the sheet on the ground, as her blade was curved at the end. The blade was a black, shining color. The hilt was also a solid black as well. She placed one hand behind her and placed the other one forward, as Naruto knew that style. It was similar to what Kushina used when she was still alive. As Suzu blinked twice as she pointed out, "Where's your sword?" she said. As Naruto blinked before he looked towards one of the guys on the fence. "Are those swords that we use when we were kids still usable?" he said. As the man's eyes widened, "Are you sure that you want to use that? Her blade looked really sharp. We can always get you a real sword to use." "Nope, using a real sword is overkill," said Naruto. "It's just a spar, right? If you come at me with all you got, and I'm impressed next time, I'll use a real blade." A woman that was leaned up on the fence pulled back her sleeve, as there was a seal on her arm. Poof! A second later, a blade made from hay appeared. It was held together by white bangs, as it was tightly kept together so the hay could be tightly compacted and stay in its form. She tossed it to Naruto as he caught it and flicked it to make sure it was still usable. "Perfect," he said. "Are you sure you want to use that thing?" Suzu asked. "Give me all you got," said Naruto, as he lowered his head, casting a shadow over his upper face, as his hair shadowed his eyes. His blue eyes then looked up through his hair, as Suzu felt something creep through her spine. The dark shadows that made him look tired came on his eyes and run down his cheeks, making him look really scary, as Suzu started to second guess herself. The Naras behind could also feel the increase in shadow, as Suzu reached around and grabbed her blade with both hands as Naruto killer intent fell on her. As it wasn't like anything she ever felt before, she swallowed thickly, as she could barely keep her legs from shaking, as he motioned for her to come. She knew what killer intent was. During the Chunin exams, Orochimaru had blasted on her without mercy, as he had sealed away her attempt to use the Nine-Tailed Fox Chakra. But this was something else. It was like she was a child and she was lost in nothing but darkness, unable to find the light. After 5 long minutes, she stepped forward as her eyes flashed red. She used a fox inside of her to repel the killer intent, something that impressed Naruto. A small smirk came on his face as he watched her push past his killer intent as she marched towards him, until she gained more speed as she rocketed towards him, as she threw up dust and sand as she did so. Every Nara, male or female, was born with the inner ability of strategizing. It only varied by the speed where decisions were made, the quality of those decisions, and how they were used. That is why the Naras were a clan that was well respected. It was even believed that Shikamaru Nara, the clan head, was such a great strategist that he was able to see 10 steps in the future against any opponent that he was put against. He was the commander of Envoy for a reason, and he was the right hand man to the Hokage for a reason as well. For everything that was planning, every strategy used, he was the one that was the go-to. And even though Naruto had not openly challenged his father for the better strategists and dominance all around, it was a widely believed that Naruto was the better, and he already surpassed his father from the moment he became Jonin at age 11. Barely a month after Shikamaru was born, and Shikamaru did not do anything to stifle the rumors spreading around, because deep in his sleepy mind, he knew that Naruto was a much better strategist and ninja than him, especially after he returned from a solo war against the Western Empire, as well as defeating 2 S-ranks and assassinating the Kage of the Hidden Rain without a single help. For now, Naruto was not interested in leading the clan, but when the day finally came for him to butt heads with his father, he would be waiting. As Naruto watched as Suzu run towards him, as she switched style while moving towards him from the basic Genjutsu, from the rattlesnake style that Orochimaru made, and from the broken Buken style that Yuji used. As he counted 6 different styles as she charged towards him, her blade was from a heavy, unknown metal that he could not decipher at the moment, but he knew that it was incredibly sharp. As he sidestepped, as she slashed, as she twisted and brought her blade around, he stepped back as it passed his face, as he poked her right in the stomach with his own blade. As she jumped back, before she launched herself towards him as she slashed towards his face, which he dodged, he then poked her right on the shoulder, as she turned a vicious strike, but Naruto dodged as he hit her hand, allowing her to move with the momentum, as he poked her several times with his A blade before he knocked her over the head, making her fall to the ground. As he walked around her, tapping his blade on the ground. "Is that all you got?" senselessly, charging at me. "It seems I overestimate you, Suzu," he said, as he tapped her right on the cheek as he smiled. "Better luck next time, kid." As he turned his back and started to walk away, until he came to a stop. As he turned, as she forcefully got back up, as hazy blue chakra coated her body and covered her blade. The blade started to change when he came in contact with her chakra, as it stretched and elongated into a 9-foot blade. Her chakra flailed around her like fire, as the air warped around her, as the ground started to be brushed away. Dust, debris, everything started to be brushed and pushed away from her, as she lifted her blade up and placed it on her shoulder, as she spat to the side. "This isn't the Kyuubi influencing you, I hope," said Naruto. "Why don't you come and find out, old man," she said, as she snarled, as the breeze got stronger. "I guess I owe you that much, seeing that you came at me when the spar started," he said, as he rolled his neck. As he started to jog towards her, he could not touch her with his hay blade, because the winds would shred it. The weapon in her hand was a sword, with 2 stages passed down. The first one was a normal form, taken by the person emotion. The second one was brought out by the person emotion, taking on shape into a demon, Zanpakuto. Kushina had the blade, and it was a katana that could split into 2 parts. But when it was passed down to Suzu, when she entered the academy, changed into a saber, that blade was passed down from Uzumaki to Uzumaki, and knew it belonged to Suzu. With her chakra passing through it, her wind fainted, it seems. It was hard to get too close. But he also had chakra as well, as Naruto Hei's sword burst into flames, as he brought it down in her head, as Suzu brought up her blade. But at the moment they got too close, a massive eruption of wind and flames exploded right in front of her, as the wind on her blade was blown away, as her blade returned back to its normal form, and Naruto kept on bashing down on her, forcing her to step back and parry, as she had to try her best so she would not be burned by the fire. As he whipped his blade, as the wind around her was dispersed, as he brought the blade up and touched her right on the forehead. That was the last attack on her legs. Lost feeling suddenly, all the strength in them was just sapped away. Her arms quivered as she released hold on her weapon. He pulled his weapon away from her forehead as she fell. As she was gonna fall over, he turned his back, as he allowed her to collapse on his back. "You're still gonna need a bit more training with that weapon of yours. Practice more wind-based exercise along with your blade, and you will get better," as he helped her up when she went silent. as she even crossed her arms in a huff at how quickly she was taken down. Anything else, she muttered under her breath, as she was too proud to ask for training tips it seems, and too eager to fight them again once she got better at it. Don't let your temper overcome you. You had a plan when you came at me before, but you threw it away when you saw that your strikes were being dodged by me. As he poked her on the forehead with 2 fingers as he smiled at her, as her cheeks got a bit red, before she forced her head down to the ground. But even if I wasn't going easy on you, you still did pretty well, said Naruto, as she brought her head back up with a smile on her face, as Naruto grinned back at her, as her face got even more red, as Nara's watched what was going on. In Suzu's generation, out of Shikamaru and the others, she was the best sword user, and she was taken down within seconds. As Naruto glanced back towards the others, "Who's up for brunch in the dinner hall?" he asked, as they cheered in agreement, as Naruto threw his hand over Suzu's shoulder. As she got flustered a bit, as he walked back to the mess hall. "You're coming too," he said. "Maybe you can get a few more pointers from my clan mates." She bobbed her head, as her sheet came out of Naruto's shadow by a tentacle of darkness, as she thanked him as she sheathed her blade. As they were making their way, an explosion went off. Luckily, no one got harmed. As Naruto stepped in front of Suzu, a mad cackle echoed around them as more Naras ran out of their houses looking towards the blast. "Do I have your attention now, knight?" As Naruto removed the gloves off his hands, as Dagger and Sorcery were flying above him on a white bird. As Naruto traced the explosion to the clan head's house, where his mother was having a guest, but his father was at the Hokage's office reporting the assassination of Nagato to Tsunade on Naruto's behalf, and Shikamaru was on a B-rank mission to win country, merely a diplomatic mission. As Naruto's eyes sharpened as he focused on Dagger, the rings under his eyes darkened even more. As his lazy posture straightened out, shadows wrapped around him as his clothes, when they came back down, changed into his combat uniform. As his cloak fluttered around him, the thick black boots on his feet was replaced by comfortable sandals. As his cold eyes fell on the bird, as it abruptly froze, after a blazing fast shadow shot forward and rocketed high up in the sky as it exploded into a glorious shower of flames. "Go and see if there's any injured," said Naruto. They all nodded as they communicated with the others as they moved off. As Naruto heard Suzu unsheath her weapon, "You too," he said. "But I want you to go and report this to the 5th Hokage." She was about to reply in the negative, but Naruto spoke first. "Now," he said. She grinded her teeth before she nodded as she ran off. As Naruto glanced toward the smoke in the air, a clone rised from his shadow as he started to flip through hand signs, Earth style, piercing rock darts. The ground around them rumbled as thick spikes started to be shot up into the cloud. Hidden art, shadow sewing technique, as a single string of darkness cast onto all the darts that were shot up to the heavens. As Naruto then used that to blink from one dart to another, moving up into mid-air. As he opened his cloak and released a massive shadow that destroyed all the flock of birds that came towards him, as the thing that he sent out was a creature made from shadow as it roared, destroying all the clay birds before it slammed against the mad bomber. The creature then started to shimmer as it transformed into a clone of Naruto with a kunai and slit Dagger's throat. As he then turned towards where Sorcerer was, as he was gliding in mid-air with metal fan-like wings that came from his back and arms, as Sorcerer started a launch Senbon towards him, as he was trying to tire him out. As Naruto saw that quickly, as Naruto was falling, he clapped his hands together. "Fire style, cursed Red Amaterasu," he said, as he held up the tiger's seal before he dragged in as much air as his lungs could hold. He then blew it out. Fire, dark and evil enough to leave imprints in the mind of those who saw it, whipped through the air as the extra flames incinerate all of Sasuke's weapons. He quickly unsealed his third Kazekage puppet as it covered him in iron sand. The flames sputter and whipple as Naruto kept on breathing it out, as he stopped his attack and glided towards the fire with his cloak. As Naruto touched down on the solid iron sand, as a tentacle of shadow came from him, his hand was still in the tiger's seal. He could feel the darkness and shadow move around inside, but there was no opening for him to capitalize and control them. So he jumped up a bit as he washed more godly fire down as it hit the ball of iron sand. The effect was that the sand solidified together as it started to break apart, as Naruto dropped his cloak as he started to fall from mid-air. As he dropped right on the Kazekage who wrapped him up in the iron sand. As Naruto melted into shadows. As he flew through the puppet, he severed every joints, every wooden compartment, everything that he came down. As he moved through the chakra strings. To the shock of Sasori, as Naruto severed the wings off his back and his arms. As Sasori could no longer feel his arms as well. As both of them started to plummet down to the ground as Sasori saw those cold dead eyes. So you are as powerful as they say you are. As Naruto ignored the question as he spoke. Is my mother still alive, he said. If the bomb had killed her. As Naruto tightened his fist before closing his eyes, he reined in his emotions. No, she's safe, said Sasori. Good. Where is she? Our new leader, Uchiha Madara, has taken your whole family. Shikaku, Nara, Yoshino, and Shikamaru, Nara, and he's holding them all hostage. I assume that he wants a Rinnegan in my possession, said Naruto. As Sasori nodded as he saw the ground approaching as he saw Deidara on the ground, bleeding from his neck. Where can I find them, said Naruto. You know where they are. He will begin to cut off their bodies from their hands going down. If you don't show in 5 minutes. I see, said Naruto. Are there any more of you Akatsuki's within Konoha? No, they're with Madara, waiting for you. The ground was closing in faster and faster. It was nice meeting you, Knight, said Sasori. And you too, Sasori, said Naruto, as his cloak flirted out. But Sasori did not slow down as his body crashed into the ground, breaking into several wooden pieces. As Naruto's feet touched down safely, a clone came from his shadow and took up the cylinder on the ground, labeled Heart. As Naruto looked at it before the clone dropped it, as Naruto squashed it, killing Sasori for good. As Naruto sealed Deidara's shadow into his night dimension. You want the Rinnegan, huh? The Valley of End, he thought, as his shadow then flicked away and pinned onto several different directions as he was gone. Sometime earlier, the Valley of the End. Paranoia could not begin to describe what the masked Uchiha was going through after his encounter with the knight, as he stomped back in front in the dimly lit room that he was in the cave of the Valley of the End. As he kept on moving around, his eyes looked toward the surgical table that he was operating on when he was a teenager as he saw shadows. As he looked up towards the lights on the wall, as they were the reason. He was paranoid though. As every movement he caught, he had to turn. He could not get calm. He could not be calmed down, as he wondered if night had tagged along without him knowing. Every shadows were moving. Voices bobbed up and down in his head. Voices of those that he once loved, but those that he had a hand in killing. The Uchiha clasped his hands to his head as he screamed as loudly as his voice would allow. As Obito bashed his mask face into the wall. As Zetsu watched him wonder Madara Purge was losing his mind, he screamed once again. Where are you, Knight? I know you're here. Come out now. This was a lot worse than yesterday. The moment that Obito had escaped the night with his Kamui, he felt like he was being watched. And it was too much for him, and he was driving himself insane. He was positive that the knight was in the room. He was positive. And no matter how hard he kept on explaining to Zetsu, he felt like he was losing grip on his reality. The thing was, Obito was right. The knight was in there in the room with him. Specifically, a small portion of his shadow. That was too small for him to teleport into, but enough for him to keep track of Obito's location. By creating a single blue eye to watch Uchiha lose his mind. It was when he had made a hasty retreat with his Kamui that it happened. The shadow tentacle from Naruto's cloak had latched onto Obito's shadow. But it was not complete, as the man Kamui had destroyed the shadow, but it was still able to get through, as Naruto could not get through to it though. But Naruto always knew where he was, and with Naruto's shadow merging with his, it started to slowly destroy his mental shield. By destroying the memory barrier that shielded his memories, and it started to implant memories into his head, making Obito see Naruto watching him in the darkness. As far back as when Madara was training him, Naruto was standing there watching him. As those memories kept on popping up, but Obito refused to believe that they were real, and at the same time he remembered them quite well, and they were driving him crazy and insane. Everywhere he went, every movement he made, there he was watching him. The feeling terrified Obito, even though a small part of his sane sanity was telling him that those memories were planted, and he should not believe them. Obito could not say that when he was a shinobi of Elite that he was close to Naruto. He was more a mutual friend with him, through Ren and Kakashi. This was because no matter how hard he tried, and as much as Naruto made himself friendly as he can be, Obito could not muster the feeling to be a friend with him, a real friend, because he was afraid of the night. Obito of the past was a questioning, loud boy who had a weird persona, with an undying crush for his teammate. That Obito could not allow himself to be afraid of his own age mate. That Obito was not a complete idiot, because his heritage as a Uchiha made it partly easy for him to master jutsus and fighting styles. He could even go as far as to say that he ranked himself amongst the top 5 shinobis of his generation. It was a voice that constantly reverted itself into his mind, telling him that Naruto wasn't always sleepy and warm smiles, as he always seemed to be. Naruto became a genin at age 8, despite most of the Naras being known for their lazy attitude. He became a Chunin at 9, a special Jonin at 10, and a full Jonin at 11. And he already had the moniker of the Knight when he was a Chunin because of his manipulations over Shadow. It was subtle because Naruto was a big influence in their clan and their generation as a whole. He had a big circle of friends that listened to him, and for the most part, follow after his lead. He commanded respect for his friendliness and charisma more than his reputation. He was a good son to Yoshino and Shikaku, and a great big brother to Shikamaru, always finding time in his hectic schedule to be with them. The second Hokage had recognized the genius within Naruto from a young visit to the Nara clan, after Naruto had been born. In the same words that the famous water-using Hokage said, Naruto was already ready to take on the world, and the man had saw that from when the knight was a baby. The third held Naruto in high regard. The 3 Sanins spoke highly of him, but Orochimaru kept his praise to himself. By all definition, Naruto was a perfect human being, but Obito knew better. After their very first class in the academy, Obito had asked Naruto for a sparring session in the academy training ground. The both of them had celebrated their 7th birthday. Obito was happy that he was a few months older than Naruto, and he felt much stronger than a genius child of the Nara clan. But the spar had left a psyche in Obito's opponent, as Naruto believed that he was a true, strong opponent, because he was a Uchiha, and he liked to boast. So Naruto had let loose. He started by releasing all that shadow that ran down his face, and all this killer intent that he could muster from his body. Every last drop of it. Obito had crumbled to his knees and passed out a minute later, in front of all the other kids that came to watch him fight. When he woke up again, he was labeled as an idiot. Normally, he should be pissed off at being made a fool of, but he was not. He was afraid because he had saw his death several times in the pitch black darkness, and all he could do was stand there and accept it. When he heard that Naruto disappeared, he pushed his agenda forward for Nagato to start collecting the tail pieces, because he knew deep down if there was anyone that could destroy his operation from going forward, it was the Knight. The Knight had effortlessly killed Hidan and Kakazu. He had destroyed all 6 paths of pain. He had cleanly assassinated Nagato, and he was also in possession of the Rinnegan. All these things were able to send shivers through his spine. He thought that his fear at the Knight had been gone after so many years, but the paranoia of being watched, it was bringing it back, and even worse than before. He ripped his mask off and threw it. It shattered at the sheer effort that he used as he faced Zetsu. "Call the others," he said. Zetsu nodded as he went underground, leaving Obito to simmer in his own madness. The Uchiha proceeded to make his way over, as he pressed his hand against a stone wall, as a panel opened revealing masks that he had worn for the past few years, some of them that he has not used yet. As he picked a white one with 2 eye holes, and there was an eye hole up in the top as well. There were circles that went around from the center, going out and going out and going out. As he secured on his face before, he made his way out. As he calmly made his way up, as he walked up the wall, as he arrived on top of the head of his mentor. As he sat down, "Oi, idiot, who are you to call for a meeting?" as he turned to see none other than Deidara. "Yet here you are," Obito says, he got to his feet, as he walked towards the Mad Bomber. "I just want to beat you up for wasting my time. I was attending to serious business," as Sorcerer observed Obito. The masked man had changed. Everything about him has. Kisame and Itachi noticed as well. Of course, Kisame knew who the bloody Uchiha was. Toby. But it was just different. Deidara. If Hidan was still with us, you wouldn't be the weakest in this group. Do you know that? Said Toby, as Deidara clenched his fists. And who the hell do you think you are? What makes you a S rank? I want you all to earn your ranks, he said, as he turned his head. But Deidara wouldn't let this slide. You haven't answered, as his hand shot out and grabbed Deidara by the throat. I'm almost tempted to snap your neck in two. You aren't the right one to do this without getting yourself harmed. Bombs cannot harm the knight. Bombs can't harm the knight? What's that supposed to mean? Kisame asked, not caring about Deidara, as he was more on the line of thinking what caused Toby to drop his idiot persona. I want you all to go to Konoha and kidnap the knight's family. Shikaku, Yoshino, and Nara Shikamaru is on a mission in the sand. I'll handle the brats. I want you four to bring the older ones here, alive and restrained. Saucer and this one are to get the attention of the knight. He knows how to find me. They knew who the masked man was referring to as the knight, the same person who had killed his zombie brothers, and the god of Aiden Rain and his packs. Naruto Naru was the biggest problem the organization has encountered. The Akatsuki was no more, seeing that the Hidden Rain was no longer their main secure base, as Konan had fortified the rain barrier to trap those that are not from the Rain Village. It would capture all their chakra signatures no matter how little or sneaky the individual was trying to be. This was a big blow because the Gedo statue was in the Hidden Rain, and they had no way of accessing it except for Obito. Teleportation or Zetsu going underground, killing Konan and getting the statue, was another problem as well, as she had taken to use paper clones all over the village. Killing a paper clone, it could explode or the rain ninjas could come down on their heads. And not to mention the entire world was aware of the Akatsuki. The Hokage and the Kazekage has been sending out letters. The allied nation or not, the news was spreading around the elemental nation about the Akatsuki. It was also time for Itachi to defect, as he had got word from Tsunade and Jiraiya. But after hearing that, Toby wanted to go after the knight's parents. He had to stay and help the genius amongst genius. Naruto Nara was much older than Itachi and far more accomplished. It was why Itachi idolized the man, lending a helping hand to him by helping his parents and brother get to safety, or by killing a few of their ranks, was the least that Itachi could do. But first he had to bring them to the Valley of the End, so that he could eradicate all the threats at once. As Kisame was deep in thought, he might be thick-headed but he was not stupid. As Obito glared at the miserable, choking Stone Ninja in his grip, former Stone Ninja. I know how the knight would end your miserable life. He would slit your throat and throw you away like a forgotten pile of dog crap in a waste. He did not care that Deidara was clawing at his hand, pleading with his eyes to release him. At least put up a fight before he kills you. As he released Deidara, who sucked up as much oxygen as possible, as he glared at Obito. Now leave! As he created a massive clay bird, as the four of them got on it. Tell the knight I will start to cut his family, piece by piece, if he does not show up in 5 minutes. How are you going to get Shikamaru? Zetsu asked. He isn't close to Konoha. I'll take care of that, said Obito. As the group got to Konoha, Kisame and Itachi, kidnapping a public figure in Konoha was not going to be easy. They had to wait until he made his way towards the red light district. As he went to the market area, as he was shopping, Itachi cast a genjutsu over the entire area, making it seem like the man had returned home. As Shikaku instantly realized it was an illusion, as Yoshino did not nag him about taking his sweet time to return, assuming that he had taken a nap in the grocery aisle of the supermarket. It was an unspoken tradition that the both of them would never break. As he clapped his hands together and pushed his chakra out to break the illusion, but Itachi materialized in front of him in crows. As he looked deep within man's eyes with his Sharingan, Kisame pouted all the way back at him, not doing anything. As they went back on the bird, Yoshino wasn't much easier than her husband, as she had retired a long time ago when she got pregnant with Shikamaru. But she was still in wonderful shape. She used her knife to deflect countless senbons that came towards her. As she reached under the cupboard, as it was to kunai knife, she turned as she slammed the kick in Deidara's abdomen, knocking him away. As he had tried to sneak attack her from her left, as she saw another senbon coming towards her, She twists just in time as it clang off her kunai as it knocked, ricocheting back towards Sasori, stabbing into his left arm. She did not have time to revel in her victory, as she was hit over the head. Before she was knocked out, Nara kicked her into the cabinet, several times to be exact, until Sasori had to pull him away, pissed off that she hit him so hard, and not to mention angry at him just nearly being stifled to death. As Sasori injected her with a sleeping senbon, as they placed her body in a clay bird. They then went and blew up the entire place. Shikamaru was captured as he was taken by Obito and brought here. When Shikaku saw his wife in the state that she was in, he was furious, as the man was livid, as Zetsu has used the plants to tie them together, as both male Naras were furious, glaring at the masked man. As Obito turned his eyes to them, his Sharingan blazing, as he walked up to Shikaku. "You only have the night to blame," said Obito, as Shikaku tried to tear out of the bindings. Then everyone froze. "You're right, this is my fault. I'm sorry, Mom, Dad, Shika. This won't happen again." As a feeling swept over the area. "I can't move," said Kisame, as their shadow could be seen under them twisting and moving. Even Zetsu was not safe as he could not move, as a clone emerged from their shadows. The real Naruto stepped out from behind Obito, holding a katana in his hand, his eyes dark and evil. His eyes glanced towards a frozen masked man before Kisame. Then Itachi. "Where does your loyalty lie, Itachi?" "Konoha," was a simple reply. Conan had mentioned that Itachi was a spy in the organization as well. "Traitor," said Kisame. "Yes," said Itachi, as his shadow returned back to normal and he could move. "For what it's worth, you were a competent shinobi, Kisame." "Screw you!" The clone that held him pulled both of its arms out of the abyss of darkness that was his cloak, kunai in its grip as it slashed it across Kisame's throat, going through a small chain of seals as Kisame was forced to do so as well, as his body started to solidify into rocks. As Kisame followed suit, the water that made up 90% of his body was countered by the Earth-style Earth assassination technique. As both the clone and Kisame was frozen, Itachi pulled a tonto as he jammed it in the head of the clone, ending Kisame's life. Quick and easy as he sealed Samehata in the frozen stone figure. As Naruto turned his sights on Zetsu, the shadow clone started to go through hand sign, as Zetsu was forced to do so as well. The body of the clone then ignited as Zetsu burst into flames as well, as he could not move, as he screamed in agony and pain, as Naruto watched it burn until it was nothing but goo, as he sliced it up into 5 different parts before sealing it away into a section of his blade, where it will roam in his dimension forever, unable to escape, unable to contact the outside world, as the black goo was not really human. As the shadows release Shikaku, Shikamaru and Yoshino, as Shikaku moved as he caught his wife. As Naruto stepped in front of Obito, "Do you have any regrets?" he said. He really wanted to know where his plans had gone up in smokes. Was it when Naruto was introduced in the mix, or when he decided to kidnap his family? Only one, Obito said, as he smiled. "Never proven myself to you when I was in Konoha." What? But Naruto was cut off, as his eyes switched into the Mangekyo. Kamui! For Naruto's family, he was sucked away in a strange, swirling vortex as Naruto was tossed and twirled before his feet landed on a grey, white floor. His cloak was gone, and the feeling of him being connected to shadows was gone as well. As he looked down, his shadow was gone. He glanced up as there was no sun or moon, just an unexplained light. His combat uniform was still on. He was 100% sure that he was not in a genjutsu, as he could feel his body and his chakra still in contact. His weapons and storage seals were still on him. The only thing is, he was without his shadow. The perks of using his shadow dimension was unavailable to him, as he heard a deep laughter in front of him. As he looked up, what is the night without darkness? As the man removed his mask, as Naruto saw that it was Obito, bleeding from his left eye. "Nothing," he said. "Where am I?" said Naruto. "This is the world in between, a destination of my own creation. Something I made for this fair occasion. Here, the night has no advantage in the shadows. Your crutch is gone, Naruto." "My bloodline is not my crutch," Naruto said back. "I bet you regret our spar all those years ago. Little Obito wasn't there to be your punching bag, and you move on to better praise, right?" I always thought that you were a friend, Obito, said Naruto, as he sighed, always. Even when you never accepted my invitation to hang out with me, I didn't stop trying to bring you in. Obito lost all of his composure. Lies, he said as he wiped his hand in front of his bloody face. The Knight is evil. The Knight has no need for friends. You just wanted to brainwash me like you did for the others. Like you did for your own family. As Naruto shook his head to how far gone Obito was. When I kill you, the world will be free of your illusion. The curse will be lifted, and when I bring back my master, we will rule the world. I will bring back Ren. Do you hear me, Knight? I will have Ren. Obito, said Naruto, as his voice was dark. Don't make me do this. Obito laughed. Don't make you do what, Knight? Don't make me kill you. As if you want to return back to the real world, you'll have to aim the person that cast the jutsu. As you remember that day, they were too far away when the war was happening. They were just too far. As the distress signal was sent by Ren, as Naruto regretted not trying harder to make a friend with Obito, because despite his names, without friend and family, there was nothing there. That was the type of person Naruto was. As he always blamed himself, he was 7 years old. As he went in too much, he had released all of his killer intent, and this darkness, it had made Obito see things that he should not see. I'm not afraid of the Knight anymore. I'm stronger than I was back then. The Knight has no power over me, Obito said, as Obito's eyes started to spin in anticipation as he dropped into his stance. As Naruto dropped into his as well. But guys, be and subscribe right here. If you want to see the next person do, like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on the bell notification to stay posted. Remember, share to all of your friends in your social media platform. And yeah, remember to stay tuned for the rest of what is coming your way. I hope you guys enjoy each and every one of them. But for now, I'm out. See you guys soon. Peace.